Technology is driving Africa's growth like never before. As hundreds of millions of Africans connect to the internet, every corner of the economy is transforming. Whole new industries and markets are taking root, and innovation born here is exported around the world. Meet the entrepreneurs, investors, and companies leading Africa's shift to a digital future on Bloomberg TV Africa.
African Business Weekly reviews the most important business and political stories
and their impact across the continent.
We will be analyzing the market
and debating hot topics with leading experts.
So join us as we look at key investments, governance and economic commitments,
while we ask what Africans feel should be top of the agenda. With our special weekly interactive poll, you too can join the discussion.
Africa Business Weekly, only on Bloomberg TV Africa.
He's a former banker with a vision to transform Africa. Nigerian entrepreneur and philanthropist Tony Elumelu believes the key to the continent's economic success is investment in its private sector.
I really like to do things differently, to challenge status quo, to do the unorthodox.
Elumelu made his money after acquiring an ailing Nigerian bank and turning it into the Pan-African United Bank for Africa Group, with a market capitalization of $2 billion.
I think I've always kind of known what I want in life. We were very young then. I think I was 34 years when the journey started. And we worked extremely hard. We made sacrifice to succeed. And it was quite rewarding.
Elumelu left the world of banking in 2010 to set up his private investment firm, Heirs Holdings. Today, he has one clear goal: to change the lives of 10 million people in the next 10 years. He's doing this through Africapitalism, a term he coined that champions investment in the private sector to boost Africa's economic and social wealth.
We invest in agriculture, we make money, but we actually get people more engaged productively. So these are things that we do that reinforce our philosophy of Africapitalism. Maybe the world needed people like us to have changed the game.
Born on March the 22nd, 1963, Tony Elumelu was the second oldest of 5 children. He had a modest upbringing in the central Nigerian city of Jos. Born, bred and educated in Africa, minus a short stint at Harvard Business School, this is a source of pride for Elumelu.
My first degree was in economics. I went to Bender State University. I finished, then I proceeded immediately to University of Lagos, where I did my master's in economics. I finished and I started working. I was in banking, but I'm no longer a banker. I was in banking, and I started from analyst, financial analyst, to we then got to the top. I was quite fast in my career advancement. I was lucky to work with a CEO who took a big bet on me. I was exposed. I was made a brand manager 12 months after postgraduate school, so it was quite fast. From there, things, I was on a certain track.
Elumelu certainly was on the right track. He was quick to make his mark within Nigeria's banking industry.
In 1997, I led a group of Nigerian finance and banking professionals to take over a defunct distressed bank. We took over the bank and changed the name to Standard Trust Bank. We developed a 3-tier strategic intent. First tier being to turn around the bank since it was distressed. Second tier intent being to grow, make the bank the leading commercial bank in Nigeria. And third tier intent was to turn this bank to a Pan-African bank with presence in global financial centers.
Phillips Oduoza is the current CEO and General Managing Director of the United Bank for Africa Group. Oduoza replaced Elumelu after he stepped down from the position in 2010. He recalls his predecessor's rise to the top.
Standard Trust Bank, if you go back a little bit, was a bank that was rated initially as almost the last amongst the 89 banks we had at that particular point in time. When Tony Elumelu took it over, he built it into a very top brand in Nigeria, taking it from that almost last position to number 5 bank in Nigeria. And at that point in time, it was known as the fastest growing bank in Nigeria, with very dynamic leadership, very young management, and moving into various places and taking banking just to the doorsteps of people at home and in the offices.
In 1998, Elumelu was appointed as CEO of Standard Trust Bank. He was only 34 at the time, making him the youngest CEO of a commercial bank in Nigeria.
It's because we're young, we're called cowboys. So in this an industry where the last thing you want to be described as a cowboy, in an industry that is driven by trust. And so that was a major challenge. I mean, you don't blame people because young people, 34-year-old, unheard of, becoming a CEO, and you want people to entrust their life savings with you.
According to Oduoza, age was nothing but a number, and Elumelu was quick to establish himself.
A very strong team and very focused. He has a clarity of the vision, what he wants to achieve. And it is amazing for somebody at that age, looking so many years ahead. For instance, he saw the emergence of the mega banks in Nigeria long before the consolidation started and so on. So as a very young CEO, he just transformed the entire banking industry, and people were just amazed. And today, the youths also look up to him.
With Elumelu in charge, Standard Trust Bank was back in the green in less than a decade. He also increased its retail network and introduced a range of new financial services. By 2005, Standard Trust Bank was one of the 5 biggest commercial banks in Nigeria. That same year, Elumelu headed up one of the biggest deals in Nigerian corporate history by merging Standard Trust Bank with United Bank for Africa. The merged bank took on UBA as its name, and Elumelu was appointed its chief executive. Elumelu attributes the bank's success down to a simple lesson on how to save, taught to him by his father.
The philosophy then was, okay, you earn $1, let's encourage you to save 20 cents at Standard Trust Bank. And the only thing that will make you save 20 cents or 2 cents, one is that it's capital you're ready to risk, and 2, service is good. So that if service is good and you think you're risking 20% of what you're earning, over time you grow confident. And grow confidence and now begin to embrace it. And so that was what happened. So over a short period of time, the confidence level grew and people were now patronizing us more. And we grew very fast. We were the fastest growing bank at the time. We opened 100 branches in a short period of time and grew to acquire the 3rd largest bank in the country and created the huge Pan-African bank that exists today, the United Bank for Africa.
With Elumelu at the helm, UBA morphed into a diversified financial services institution with operations in 19 African countries, as well as the UK, France, and the United States. The merger of 2 banks not only made history, but paved the way in which banks operated in Africa.
Not just the largest merger in Nigeria, it was and remains the largest merger in financial services landscape in sub-Saharan Africa today. So when I started as a CEO, it was difficult to do a $10 million transaction, but we needed scale. And as you know, this saying about being at the right place at the right time, we made this move, and there was consolidation also in the banking sector in Nigeria. So creating this level, this size of bank gave us a lot of capacity to do transactions. Today, United Bank for Africa can single-handedly do a $300 million transaction, can syndicate billions of transactions for customers. That didn't happen before. So creating size, scale was key in making some of these transformational changes.
Elumelu stepped down as CEO in 2010 on the back of the Central Bank of Nigeria limiting the tenure of top banking executives to 10 years. By the time he left, the UBA Group was worth $2 billion in terms of market capitalization, with more than $12 billion in assets, 10,000 employees and 7 million customers. Elumelu's Pan-African approach offered a glimpse into his plans beyond banking. He decided to set up an investment firm that would boost Africa's social and economic wealth by ploughing money not just into financial services, but the private sector as a whole.
Competitive, visionary leaders of our time. We celebrate a new generation of African women shaping the continent's political, social, and economic landscape.
When a woman makes it successfully, how did she make it? But a man is not asked how.
I'm Uche Okoronkwo. Join me each month for African women to watch.
At the senior level, the proportion of women relative to men, Africa is way behind.
Only on Bloomberg TV Africa.
Africa maybe is going to be the factory of the future if we get it right. So the opportunities are limitless.
Africa has a competitive advantage when it comes to the raw materials.
It is up to the people of Africa to seize this moment.
We're just beginning because for the first time in a long time, all the economic issues are beginning to be corrected.
Nigerian entrepreneur and philanthropist Tony Elumelu has set himself an ambitious goal. He wants to transform Africa's economic prospects by increasing investment in its private sector. Elumelu is doing this through Africapitalism, a self-coined economic philosophy.
Africapitalism is a call on the African private sector to invest long-term in key sectors of the African economy that create economic prosperity and social wealth.
Moki Makura has worked closely with Elumelu at his investment firm, Heirs Holdings, and is the author of Africa's Greatest Entrepreneurs. She describes how the former banker's career gave rise to Africapitalism.
When his time when he was developing and building UBA was really quite key for him in terms of what he's doing now, because at the time he talks about the fact that as he was, democratizing banking and he was bringing banking to a much broader sector of the population, he realized that he was doing more than just providing a banking service. He was empowering people financially. He was now giving people access to services, to things they could do when they had a bank account, when they could transfer money, when they could gain interest, when they could start borrowing money from home. So it was so much more than just having a bank. He was actually impacting people on very many levels. And I think that's where the basis of this thinking of Africapitalism came, that, through a private sector business, I mean, he didn't set out to do this, on a, I'm just doing good. He set out to make money. He was building a bank. But whilst making money, whilst he was doing well, he was also doing good. So that phrase about doing well and doing good, I think started when he started building the bank.
It's this business know-how that Elumelu believes will trump nationalization. Entrepreneurs rather than policymakers will be the driving force behind Africa's economic and social growth.
If there's a gap in an economy, if there's something that needs doing, it's actually usually the role for entrepreneurs increasingly, not government, because government doesn't have money. So it's increasing the role of entrepreneurs to step in, and that's basically the essence of Afrocapitalism and the essence of what I think Tony's doing.
Elumelu has a clear strategy when it comes to the sectors that Heirs Holdings invests in. His plan is to focus on industries that not only offer lucrative returns, but also address issues such as food security and power shortage.
When we invest in power sector, for instance, we're making money. We'll make money by investing in power sector. But also helping to increase access to electricity, because we know the value, the benefits of what increased access to electricity can do for Nigeria, for Africa. When we invest in agriculture, we invest in agriculture to make money. But we know that by making money in agriculture, we're actually helping to engage a lot more people. We're helping farmers who ordinarily have their produce wasted, lost. We're helping them to make sure that the farm produce have economic value. This philosophy of Afrocapitalism, which is driven by the mindset of long-term investing, driven by investment in key sectors, and driven by economic prosperity and social well-being done simultaneously.
Access to electricity is seen as a major barrier to Africa's economic development. Seen from space, the continent appears as dark as the equally vast but far less populated Arctic tundra.
Well, the big sector for Heirs Holdings and also for Africa was power. I mean, power just underpins almost everything that we do, particularly in a world where we're moving forward in terms of technology. It's all underpinned with power. So it was a strategic sector. So one of the things that they did was they bought a power station. And I think he's looking to do more in that sector, because his feeling is that once you unlock the power problem in this country, and certainly across the continent, it's going to unleash phenomenal things in Africa.
As part of Heirs Holdings' commitment to boost access to electricity, in 2013, it pledged $2.5 billion to US President Barack Obama's Power Africa initiative. Obama announced the $7 billion plan during the South African leg of his second tour of Africa as president.
So today I'm proud to announce a new initiative. We've been dealing with agriculture, we've been dealing with health. Now we're going to talk about power. Power Africa, a new initiative that will double access to power in sub-Saharan Africa. Double it. We're going to start by investing $7 billion in U.S. government resources. We're going to partner with the private sector, who themselves have committed more than $9 billion in investment. And in partnership with African nations, we're going to develop new sources of energy.
Heirs Holdings is the scheme's largest investor.
We committed $2.5 billion in the Power Africa initiative of President Obama. First is there was a direct alignment in terms of purpose and approach. First time we've seen an African-American president come to Africa and is preaching what, to me, is progressive, and telling us that power is key for the economic development of the continent. Our group, already driven by the philosophy of Afrocapitalism, believe truly that making long-term investment in key sectors like power is key for the ultimate economic growth of the continent.
Elumelu left the world of banking in 2010. In a short period, he's been able to propel his economic philosophy of Afrocapitalism to the forefront. So what's next for this soft-spoken but passionate Afrocapitalist? To change the lives of 10 million people within the next 10 years as the private sector emerges as the hub of African growth.
Africa, a continent rich in energy and natural resources. Yet almost half the region is facing an energy crisis. How can it harness its full potential while dealing with the demands of a growing economy? Join me as I bring together key industry players and policymakers with their views on the successes and challenges within the continent's energy sector. I'm Bosin Amofaye, and this is the Africa Energy Report, only on Bloomberg TV Africa.
African Business Weekly reviews the most important business and political story
and their impact across the continent.
We will be analyzing the market
and debating hot topics with leading experts.
So join us as we look at key investments, governance and economic commitments,
while we ask what Africans feel should be top of the agenda. With our special weekly interactive poll, you too can join the discussion.
Africa Business Weekly, only on Bloomberg TV Africa.
Tony Elumelu has made a name for himself by turning the nearly broke Standard Trust Bank into one of the top 5 biggest in Nigeria. In 2005, he led one of the most lucrative deals in Nigerian corporate history by merging Standard Trust Bank with United Bank for Africa. The merged bank took on UBA as its name and went on to operate in 19 African countries with more than 7 million customers.
What he has done by building a very large bank when a lot of banks were very, very small implies that the Nigerian economy benefited so much from that, and that set the pace, because what happened is, prior to that, Nigerian banks could not execute on big ticket transactions, especially in the oil and gas sector and so on. By building a very, very big balance sheet, Nigerian banks started taking part in syndications and financing very big tickets and so on. And for a lot of us, I in particular, he has influenced me tremendously.
Elumelu's pioneering vision of a pan-African bank certainly left a lasting impression on the continent's financial industry.
I think he was one of the first people to look at the continent and realize that we are stronger if we develop together. And he's mirrored that in the way he built the business. And UBA is a very successful bank, but it is a Pan-African bank, and I think that's important. I think that was certainly a game changer for the banking sector. And I have to say, I was in Cotonou the other day, and we're in a tiny little village called Ouida, which is about nearly 2 hours from Cotonou, and there was a UBA there. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic, because it wasn't just in Cotonou or in Port Nouveau, it was actually in a tiny little town. And that's part of financial empowerment. That's really helping people in that area, because they can now transact with the rest of the country.
After spending more than a decade at the top, Elumelu stepped down as CEO of the UBA Group in 2010. Soon after, he set up the Tony Elumelu Foundation to pass on his knowledge to the next generation of Africa's business leaders.
I realized that entrepreneurship was key to the development of this continent, and that as a successful African private sector business leader, one's success should not be measured in the amount of money that he has in bank account, but how he's been able to truly impact others. And if you're successful because you're an entrepreneur, then the question should be, how many more entrepreneurs have you helped to create so that you have more successful people on the continent? And so the Tony Elumelu Foundation was founded basically to promote entrepreneurship across Africa.
In May 2014, Elumelu announced the launch of the Afri-Capitalism Institute. Based in Lagos, the goal of this Pan-African independent think tank is to become the world's leading authority on the role of the private sector will play in bettering the continent's future.
Working with other like-minded philanthropists and business leaders and governments, we'll be able to create a much more conducive and enabling business environment that will enable and support the private sector, entrepreneurs in particular, to succeed. And finally, we are in the process of launching a program that will touch 10,000 lives very soon. And these 10,000 lives, 10,000 entrepreneurs want to help grow 10,000 entrepreneurs on the continent in 10 years. So watch out.
He's got a vision. He knows what he wants to achieve. He's very driven. But also, I think one of the things that people probably underestimate is he works hard. He can work 24/7 in order to achieve that dream.
For Elumelu, a man born, bred and educated in Africa, the continent has a bright future ahead of itself, if steered in the right direction.
I see a mixed future. I see one of prosperity and driven by my optimism. I also see one that could go the other way if we do not do what we need to do now. Again, hence the call for Africapitalism as an investing philosophy that the private sector should uphold for us to play our role in developing the continent.
Elumelu named his private investment firm Heirs Holdings to highlight its commitment to improving the lives of Africans today and to ignite change for future generations. His story is also one that serves as inspiration to build upon his legacy.
I believe that that is what I, as Tony Elumelu, and other business leaders, and not just business leaders, especially on the African continent, what we owe the younger generation. Today, we see a lot of troubling developments in the world because we don't have enough role models. We need good role models to encourage our people, to inspire people.
Whether it's through transforming Nigeria's banking sector or revolutionizing the way business can further the continent, it's easy to see why Elumelu is touted as one of Africa's most prominent and visionary business leaders. He's also one of its most vocal champions. So as Elumelu continues to spread his message of Africapitalism, his vision of the continent's rise is inevitable.
I'd like to see an Africa where the successful private sector people, one, take it upon themselves to engage positively with government. Engagement with government should not be to seek incentives from government, but should be broad-based, to engage with government for common good. That will be for the betterment of everyone. I'd like to see also the private sector that realizes that no one but us will develop Africa. We owe it to the younger generation to give them a better future by mentoring them, by supporting them in business. I believe in sustainability, and so I believe that we need to create a mentality and a syndrome of self-reliance and less dependency on the continent.